It is officially time to go out to the Boxer and Gerson guest line. Steve Kerr, sponsored by Xfinity. The Xfinity 10G network is made for streaming live sports, which means it's the network you can rely on in the biggest moments. The Xfinity 10G network, the best way to stream live sports, and also presented by Great Clips. In sports, success is about team effort, and the same is true for your hair. Great Clips, it's going to be great. Here he is, everyone, Coach of the Warriors, Steve Kerr on Willard and Dibs. Hey, Coach, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
We're good. Great to have you as always. Let's hop right into it. Your impressions, at least in the immediate term, what the reemergence of Draymond means for this team's X's and O's.
Well, he changes things quite a bit. I mean, obviously, we immediately get better defensively, and then on offense, he gives us, another playmaker. I think maybe the best thing he does offensively is push the pace. You saw a couple of those last night where the other team scores and he just races the ball up the court, and that causes a lot of confusion, and so he changes the pace of the game for us offensively, and obviously defensively he's still able to play at a really high level. So we're happy to have him back.
What's the timeline in terms of his minutes going back up to a normal level and him getting back into the starting lineup?
I don't have a timeline for that. I think. We'll just continue to progress one game at a time, and he'll continue to be probably in the 20s minutes wise for tomorrow, and then we'll see how he's doing the next day, and we kind of take it day by day, and I think a lot depends on as far as the starting lineup. I mean, we've made a lot of changes this year. We've been searching, and we're obviously still searching, but we've got to just play it by ear. We can't make plans for 2 games from now, 3 games from now.
Coach, you guys have all said it. Draymond's always going to be himself, so there was no question he would always be a talker and a vocal leader. And his comments, we just played them for our audience after this game about how if we don't start to play with more pride, we're going to continue to suck. My question is, after everything the Warriors have been through with him this year, how do his words still resonate with the rest of the guys?
Oh, I think the guys definitely respect him, and he's been welcomed back into the building with open arms by all of our players, and there's great respect for his voice in the locker room. I think he knows that he has a lot to answer for in terms of, not being available for us this year. I mean, he's been pretty candid about that. And so I think he understands coming back. He has a voice, but he also can't overdo it. He's kind of got to walk the line because he's accountable for what he's put the team through this year as well.
What do you think specifically about what he said about playing with more pride on defense and that currently being a problem?
It's really interesting. I mean, my thoughts right after the game were maybe similar, and then I watched the tape and I watched our guys really competing and playing hard, and I watched them make the Grizzlies make a ton of shots, difficult shots. I didn't think we were poised. I was more, actually, after watching the tape, I was more concerned offensively than defensively because I think a lot of the mistakes we made on offense led to the defensive issues. So, watching the tape, our guys are trying. They're competing. I think we had 2 games last week at home where we did not compete, and we lost our confidence, lost our belief. This entire road trip, our guys are competing, playing hard. That's been the standard here for a long time, and I still see that. But we're obviously struggling to find confidence and to find a groove to win games.
19 turnovers, and Steph goes 11 of 20 from the floor. Had to really work for all the shots he could get. Where are you finding the deficiencies in terms of the rest of the offense?
Well, I think it's really interesting. If you look at the previous 15 games before last night, we're a top 5 offense in the league. So offense has not been a problem. In fact, we've been taking great care of the ball. I think over those 15 games, we were top 5 in fewest turnovers. So the offense has not been a problem until last night, and I think last night the problem was the turnovers. And look, Memphis has played us a ton. We've seen them in the playoffs a couple of times. They have a plan against us that they like to execute that has given us some problems. It gave us some problems last night, and I give them a lot of credit. I mean, even with all their guys missing, I just thought Memphis played a great game, and we sort of fell into the trap a little bit. We forced the issue on some plays and made some turnovers that we shouldn't have, and that allowed Memphis to stay in the game, with those transition threes. So that was the whole thing to me last night was, the turnovers leading to transition hoops.
Steve Kerr with us here on Willard and Dibs, as he is every week on 95.7 The Game. Coach, I'll be real straight with you here. I'm sure you know this. The fan base here seems to have just settled with the idea that Andrew Wiggins is going to be moved at some point at the deadline and has sort of thrown their collective hands up at the way he's playing, almost just settling with the idea that this is just now him. I don't get it. I still have these questions. And so I don't know any other way to ask this other than to say, what happened? What has happened to Andrew Wiggins?
Well, I mean, that's a pretty broad question. I can tell you that, watching the tape from last night, watching him in Chicago, watching him over the previous month, I think he's much different now than where he was in the beginning of the season. I think he was out of rhythm to start the year after missing so much of last year. I think, he got off to a slow start. It kind of snowballed on him. But I think over the last month or so, he's played a lot better. He's had a couple games where obviously, he's struggled with his shot, but he's competing. He was into the ball all night last night, sprinting the floor, attacking the rim. So I think Wiggs is playing a lot better, personally. I know it's not showing as much, and I know our fans are frustrated. We're all frustrated. We're losing games. And so what happens is, when you lose, everybody is going to try to find one answer, and maybe it's the coach, maybe it's one of the players, maybe it's whatever. The reality is it's always a lot of things. It's when you're losing, when you're in a bad way, it's never one thing. It's always a lot of things, and I think we all have to own it. The players, the coaches, management. Like, this is us. We're all in this together, and we've got to get this right.
Is this Wiggins, the Wiggins that you're seeing playing more assertively and playing with more impact, is he able to play with Jonathan Kuminga alongside? Because that's another thing we hear from fans is clamoring for even more Kuminga. 29 minutes last night. Are you seeing that when Wiggins plays like this, that he and Kuminga can start to play together more?
They on this road trip, they've played better together. They've played both in Milwaukee and in Chicago more minutes, and it's looking better for sure. I think the whole thing with the combinations is it's not just those two playing together. It's which three they're playing with, and that's been a big part of this season is really struggling to find consistent combinations other than the second unit. With Chris Paul and Dario anchoring that group, we've really struggled. We've moved our starting lineup around so much, and that's where it's been tricky. You like certain guys together, maybe other guys don't fit as well, and the puzzle hasn't quite fit. There's no question about it.
Coach, it was only about a week and a half ago that reports kind of surfaced that Jonathan Kuminga was frustrated. You've been pretty open about it. He mentioned a meeting you guys had that he said went really well. Now he's playing great on this road trip. How would you characterize how the two of you are doing with regard to being on the same page?
We're doing fine. Well, I talk to JK almost every day. We watch film all the time, and he's coming into his own in a lot of ways, and he still has a lot of things that he's got to get better with, and that's just the reality of a relatively inexperienced third-year player. So there's details. That we're going over with him every day, that we're trying to get him to be consistent with. We see a lot of plays on film where he can attack the rim before he gets the ball. He can be in a place to attack the rim, and we need that desperately. You guys know that, our fans know that. We're an older team. We're not super athletic, and so we need his athleticism, and but we need it to manifest itself in a lot of ways that he's not yet consistent with, and that's why the minutes can fluctuate. But he's been a great listener. He's a great young guy. I enjoy being around him. His frustration is something that basically everybody goes through in the NBA, but especially young guys who aren't playing as much as they want. So I didn't take that personally. I love JK. I think he's really coming along well, and we're gonna keep working together.
How is he progressing in terms of his defense? Not only his individual defense, but in terms of the team scheme defensively as well.
Well, the individual defense is the strong suit. He's best on the ball, and like most young players, there's the off ball stuff is a harder picture to navigate. There's a lot of moving parts, and probably a little bit like being a middle linebacker in the NFL or something. You got to know what everybody is doing when you're off the ball, and you've got to see what the offensive pattern is. You've got to know what each player's skill set is. When you're on the ball, you just guard the ball, and so that's the simplest way for him to impact the game. The off-ball stuff is he's progressing with it, and we're working every day with all of our young guys on just seeing all those pictures. The only way to do it is to get reps. I mean, you just have to see these pictures over and over again, and so the playing time is great because it helps them see them, and it helps them get better.
Coach, you've already addressed this once this year, so I'd love to hear it after this particular game. 40 free throws for Memphis, 10 for you. What's your reaction to that?
Well, again, I thought there were some reaches. There were some plays that we've got to be more disciplined with. It didn't feel like a terrible fouling game, honestly, in terms of, bad decisions reaching. It felt more like we were vulnerable because of our offense and the transition off of our turnovers. And we were put in positions because of our offense where we didn't transition back into our defensive shell very well. We were compromised, and that led to a lot of those fouls. But we fouled a couple shooters, and you can't make those mistakes. Those are killers, especially against a team like that where they're undermanned, and so what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to make a lot of threes and try to turn you over, to generate easy points, and they were able to do that.
So they shot 40, you shot 10. Steph Curry gets just one free throw. Do you need to go full-on Mike Brown laptop mode in order to get refs to get the chef to the line, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple plays for sure that felt like we should have gone to the line. I think J.K. Has earned more free throws as well. But it's there. Every game's like that. Every coach is going to look at plays and say, "Hey, my guy got fouled." And to me, that had nothing to do with the loss last night. It was what I thought happened last night. I thought there were 3 or 4 key moments in the game where we were up 6, 7, and we have a moment where we need to stop. We need to take advantage of an offensive advantage, a transition play. Maybe we got a turnover. Maybe they made a big shot. Maybe we fouled them. But each time we were, right there within striking range of breaking the game open, we weren't able to do so, and that's what cost us the game.
Coach, I saw you kind of poke a little fun at the Mike Brown situation. Do you wish you guys could speak a little bit more freely about all things, officiating, whatever, decisions that are made at the end of games? It feels like there's a bubble around that topic after games.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think, look, I spoke my mind after the Denver game on Christmas Day, and I said it then, and I stand by it. I think our officials do a great job. I think as a league we have to assess how we're teaching them and what we've done over the last decade in terms of enabling the offensive players. You guys see it. It's all the rules, all the ways we sort of assess different rules. They're all slanted towards the offense, and a lot of them are just kind of non-basketball plays that we've allowed. And I think there's a pretty big wave of momentum in the league right now of a lot of people, coaches, players who realize like we got to get back to just playing basketball. And I think we're going to see some movement in that direction.
Yeah, I miss Lawler's Law, the old first to 100 wins. Now that's like a third quarter axiom. It doesn't even apply anymore. Steve, you got Utah tomorrow, home Friday against Dallas, and then 4 days off. Is the plan for extra practice or to give, like you said, your aging team a little bit of a breather?
Probably both. We'll give them a couple of days off and then have a couple of good days of practice. And we need both, really. You can see our guys, I thought, looked a little gassed last night. And, I think it's probably difficult for people to understand just how tiring it is for Steph, Clay, Draymond to have done this for 12 years. I mean, it's mind-boggling when I think about the physical and emotional, spiritual output from the last 12 years that these guys have been together. All the big games, so many seasons, long seasons, championship seasons, seasons that end in disappointment. I mean, it adds up, and there's a reason that that at times it looks like we just don't have enough, and these guys are tired, but they're all still really good, and that's the thing. And we've got to find a way to just navigate through the season and get the best versions of them and bring along our young guys at the same time. And that's, it's proven to not be easy, but that's the goal.
Yeah, Coach, that's an interesting comment. And I've thought about this a couple of times recently. When you guys lost to the Lakers in the playoffs last year, you came on with us and there were comparisons being made to this in The Last Dance. And you were very clear. You're like, this isn't that. These guys have got a ton left. Now we've watched a number of games this year. To what level do you still feel that way?
I feel that way, but I think it's we're just more vulnerable. Each game, we have a smaller margin for error. We've got injuries have ravaged us lately, and with that has that have really hurt us, and so we're more vulnerable than we've ever been. But you guys have watched all three of these guys, Steph, Clay, Draymond. They're all really capable of having big nights, of playing at a really high level. You've watched our team play at a really high level, and then you've seen over the last couple of weeks in particular some real low points. And so we're at a different stage in our existence as a team. We all understand that, and that's why you try to supplement the roster. That's why you try to bring the young guys along as best you can, and you try to win along the way. And look, I would say we've, done a pretty good job of that. We did win a championship, in case people forgot, a year and a half ago, and we got to the second round last year and had a chance to get to the conference finals and lost to a really good Laker team. Like, this has been a rough go this year, no doubt. But, when you look at the big picture, it's been a pretty valiant run by these guys over the last 3 seasons, defending a championship and really trying to keep it going. So I believe in my guys. I love those guys, and we're going to keep fighting. Yeah,
it's been a good little run, Steve. 4 titles, and after a franchise that leaned on a playoff series win as the high point for the better part of 30 years. Is it tougher to prolong this season in particular, having to rely on so many young players, particularly a guy like Brandon Podjemski, who seems like he might be hitting a little bit of a rookie wall?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I said that last week after a tough night I think he had against Toronto, and then he goes to Milwaukee and gets the start and gets 23 points and 10 boards. He looked pretty lively in that game, and also in Chicago and in Memphis. So I don't know. I just think Brandon is a gamer. I think he's tough. I think he's got huge energy. He's a keeper. This guy's a good player, as is Trace. And I just, between those guys and Moses and Jonathan, we got some young guys in the hopper who are looking good, and I think that bodes well for the future.
Coach, before you run, those comments you were just making about looking back on everything that the Big Three have achieved is interesting. The last 2 home games, you guys have heard some boos, watched some people walk for the exits early. Your old friend Amin Al-Hassan was on with us last week, and he really said it's absurd that any Warrior fan would boo, especially when that group is out there. What are your thoughts on that experience, especially as you guys prepare to come back home?
I actually am fine with it. I said it last week. We deserve to be booed those 2 games, and look, I didn't walk out of that building, saying I can't believe we're getting booed. We've won 4 championships. Like if you look at it in the big picture, sure, it makes no sense. But if you watched those games and you saw how non-competitive we were, and I'm someone who spent several $100 on tickets to watch that performance, I got no problem. This is sports, and we're in the entertainment business. People pay good money to watch us play. We got to give them their money's worth, and we didn't in those 2 nights. And what I am proud of is that over the course of the last decade, we have given people their money's worth, and the goal is to continue to do that. And our guys are, I have no doubt, going to fight, every step of the way. And there was a stretch there, no question. Those 2 home games where we lost some faith, we lost some belief, and our guys, have been competing ever since. And I have no doubt that's going to continue.
Coach Kerr, thanks as always for answering all the questions, man.
All right, you guys. Take care. Have a good night.
All right, you too. There he is. Coach Steve Kerr, Golden State Warriors at Utah tomorrow night right here on 95.7 The Game.